Waldo, Enzo, Theron just robbed House Papaleo, stole items that they should not be in possession of, and they rushed back to meet with Droll and tell him what they found. On the way, Enzo and Theron and Waldo got split up. Theron and Waldo went and grabbed the party, who were sleeping in the Jolly Dragon Tavern, woke them up and said, "We gotta go to Droll." Enzo made basically a roundabout way to get to Droll's to throw off any sense of any followers who may have been tracking him. When they arrived at Droll's, a female dwarf answers and says, "What do you want? Why are you here this early? What's going on?" Theron says, "This is urgent. We have things that might be incriminating to House Papaleo. We need to talk to Droll right away." She's like, "Are you sure this can't wait?" They're like, "What do you not understand? This is important." She shuts the door. Then, during that 3-minute wait, when she goes back upstairs and back down to let them in, Waldo explains what they just did overnight and what they grabbed. They then walk up to the tower and sit down at the large table that they've been sitting at basically every time they've met with Droll. Enzo then arrived shortly thereafter, and they basically tell Droll what they found. And Droll's like, "Let me just make sure I understand. You guys broke into the Papaleo Manor, stole property, and this may or may not even be like incriminating evidence." They're like, "Yep." Then at that exact time, there's a knock on the door, and it's House Papaleo guards who were tracking Enzo since he was spotted, and I had to roll some persuasion checks for Droll to be able to get them to go away. He basically told them that they need more proof than that, and if they need like some sort of warrant, quote unquote, they'll need to grab that first before they can search. Basically giving them the same treatment that he gives all the other noble houses, and as well as giving him some time to get the players out of Dodge. So he goes back up, tells the players that people were looking for them. He then polymorphs Enzo and Theron into eagles, since you cannot track a creature who has been polymorphed. Then he takes all of them upstairs to a place they've never been. They walk into like this room full of magical artifacts, and then he opens a big lead door, and inside of this chamber, it's like a square vault, and there are very, very important items in here. They see the Sword of Arcturus, they see the other magical items, and he basically says, "Okay, well, you guys have the Ascending Stones, which you stole. Have you tried to like contact who's on the other side?" Theron then says, "No, I'm not very good at mimicking. Can you do it?" And he's like, "Oh, actually, the person who does my mimic here, they're in Gargashal," kind of like revealing that he has some sort of other network and people who work for them other than what he has with them. And that was important for me to do because we know that he works with the Falchieri, which is this other rival party that I've created when the party went to the Fey Realm. But Droll is the city wizard, so he does have a lot of power, but he also is in a lot of different places, has his hands in a lot of different pots, and his attention has really been on this Ragnar guy, how to protect my city from raids and things like that. It hasn't been with like this inner conflict that's been going on with the houses voting on certain things, as well as Papaleo has always been in the pain in the neck, so that's not really anything new to him. So then Droll says, "Okay, well, let's make the call. I think this is going to be the best bet because House Papaleo, I know that they've been robbed. They're obviously going to notify everyone that has one of these Ascending Stones to basically disable them so they don't work anymore. So we might as well take this time that we have and use it and see what we can find out." So they go ahead and make the call, and Theron says, I've been told that I need to reach out, like my master's been breached, and we're just calling to let you know." And they hear like this Russian accent come back, like saying, "Who is this interloper talking to me?" And Theron's like, "I was told to do that. Like, what do you mean?" He's like, "I will send your master a message and he will not like what he receives." And then Theron responds like, "Oh, well, we found you once, we'll find you again," basically. And then they don't hear any responses. So that was the voice of the curator, which they heard. And then they discuss like what this voice is from. And Joel's like, "I didn't recognize that accent anywhere. I've been to most countries and I don't recognize any of those. So I don't know who that is." So then they decide, okay, well, nowhere else really to go. We're kind of backed into a corner literally. So let's go to LaBelle at this point. So Joel then goes and gets dressed and gets like ready, and he teleports them to LaBelle. So finally, 5 sessions later, basically, they have made it to LaBelle. I'm so excited that they're finally here. I have so many great things planned, and yeah, I'm hoping that they love it just as much as I have been in love with making the city for them. So when they first get there, they kind of ask Joel some questions, as well as they kind of take some time to make a group name, and they come up with the Keystone Collective with both with K's. And then they asked Joel, like, can we ask you some more questions? He's like, all right, well, if we're going to get more into the nitty gritty, like, I need to get a drink. It's early. I need to sit down. So they go to one of the inns, taverns in the area called Sonia Suites, and as they enter the city, they see like a bunch of canvases, like carnivals, like striped canvases, massive buildings with like huge balloons on them, 3 and 4 stories tall, some of them. The aesthetic here is basically carnivalesque mixed with English cottage in this specific district. There are 3 districts in LaBelle, and then the other districts are more geared for like Italian style, like white plastered with like vines and plants and fronts and all kind of like wall to wall. So that's the aesthetic that I was going for. So they go into the Sonia Suites, and it's really weird looking in here. There's like neon lights hanging all around. The people look way different, like they're seeing turtles and drow and tieflings and halflings everywhere, when these races are not that prominent in Alloy. It's more human elves type things. So they sit down with Joel and have a bit of a discussion as far as like just other questions that they hadn't asked at that time. So then Joel says, okay, it was nice talking to you guys. I'm going to go back now. You guys are on your own. I'll talk to you when you guys have completed the mission. And then he teleports back. So the players are finally in LaBelle, no connections back to Joel. And then Wink, Enzo, and Thran go out and explore the area of LaBelle and kind of get into these carnival games, while Waldo and Thran have a short rest in Sonia Suites. So I think this was the best part of the session. They went to go play a carnival game, and they found like the one where you throw the ball and it has to hit the button and the person's sitting like a tank and they fall into water. But instead I made it like some sort of sludge concoction, and button moved. Think of like the spaceship in Despicable Me, as well as the tender is basically the same guy, where like he knows it's a scam. It's very hard. Like you can't really win. It's a pretty cheap game in comparison to the other ones, because money is more inflated here, like the prices, just because they don't live off the land in LaBelle. They live off of trade, so money is more abundant. So he's like basically standing with his hand out like, okay, pay up. And the guy's mocking Olivax, and Olivax is getting pissed. And he has amazing lines that he's like, Silver Tongue, I'm gonna kill you, basically. Bahamut lives. And the guy's like mocking him, and he rolls a natural 1, and then he rolls a 7. I'm like, the DC is 20. Then Enzo goes up and does it, and he's able to knock him down once, and he lands in the sludge. And then the guy gets out, and he casts Prestidigitation on himself to clean himself off, and then sticks back on there, and then it goes to, mock and belittle those who try to knock him off. That's what his job is. And so that was really fun to roleplay. I just made that all up on the spot. I didn't have anything planned. As far as like the carnival games go in this session, I had ideas of what I wanted to do, but nothing concrete. I do expand that in the next session, but they go back after playing the carnival games and they meet up with Fedon and Waldo, and that was the end of the session for session 20. Overall, I thought it was a solid session. Not amazing, but not the worst either. I thought the players had fun. The plot moved along. They were meeting characters, and we kind of closed out the chapter of Alloy. I think it ended well. So I'm really excited for them for session 21, which was our latest session. So this session, they decided to go back out as the group, having kind of explored and seeing how amazing like this place is. So they go back out to do more carnival games. That week during this break of the session, I prepped a ton of carnival games. I prepped a ton of prizes as well, and I wanted to make the prizes have magical effects, every single one of them. So I made a list of like 80s and 90s toys, and then I came up with like magical abilities for those. I came up with like carnival food, like nachos, hot dogs, popcorn, cotton candy, and made ways for them to have magical effects. So I had vendors, I had carnival games. I also explained that there's like tons of cosplayers here, like Enzo loves books. So imagine every book having like cosplayers, like balloons and people just dressed up like in crazy things that you would never expect. And Enzo was like eye candy everywhere, so he loved that. So the first carnival game they did was, there was like this gun. Since there's no guns in my world, it's basically like a 2x4 which has some magical ammunition that they put in, and then you hit the back of the wood with your hand and it like shoots the ammunition out, and you have to hit 3 magical bottles that are in a triangle formation, and if you knock all 3 of them off, you get a prize. So I explained some of the prizes, and they're like, let's go. And they spent a ton of gold. It was like 1 gold for 3 balls, and they're like, I want 27 balls, please. So they're willing to spend lots. and have lots of tries. In retrospect, I probably should have made the games a little bit more expensive. For example, a carnival game is like $10 for 3 balls. So I should have, however, like 1 gold piece is like a day's worth of work here. So maybe I should have made it slightly more expensive just because, I don't know, maybe I should have made the prizes less powerful at the same time, because it's like they have thousands of gold and some of these prizes are worth like 50 gold pieces. So if they're able to win it with only spending 1 gold, it's like they're not, like the ratio of economy is off. So that was like a small oversight. Again, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It's just like more of a me thing. Like I want my world to make sense. So if the magic used to make the items is 50 gold pieces, well, the prizes should then be worth 50 gold pieces. So the games should be like 10 gold pieces per one, since it's very rare that you're going to win. The only reason that the players are winning is because they're heroes and they have good modifiers like +6s and things like that, when the DC is like 20, 25, things like that. So yeah, so the first game, Waldo went and he wanted to get a super soaker, which fills up like create water spell once you like pull it out and you shoot water. And he also bought some cotton candy that allows you to cast a jump spell once you eat it once. They also, then after that, Olivax wanted to do the strongman bell game where you hit the surface and it shoots the bell up, and he was able to get that on his first try, and he was like, yes! Like super excited. So love that when my players are super engaged. And my cousin who plays Tink, the human artificer, was like, I'm going to spend my gold to get every single prize possible. So I was like having him roll. And then I forgot that he has disadvantage because he's still cursed. I didn't make him re-roll, but that was just an oversight on my part that I need to remember. So it kind of also like was giving them a reminder like, hey, you are still have this infirmity. You should probably like treat this now that you're in the place that you were told would be able to have more magic. So after they did that, they did one more game where they did like a ring toss, and Wink did that one. So I felt like all my players got some screen time, which is sometimes more difficult. Thadon was not there, unfortunately. It would have been fun for Thadon, since he's a rogue. He could try to like swindle the scammers. So opportunity missed, but he was gone. Players basically gone every session. I've come to expect that at this point since I have 6 players, but oh well. After that, they went and Waldo really wanted to purchase some fireworks. So I prep NPCs just for fun, like when I have inspiration, or I'll do like Google searches for like fun NPCs that people have used in their games, and I'll copy and paste it in my OneNote where I have like a list of like literally thousands of NPC names, business names, like a short description. And I basically have tried to like vet all of those and put them in different sections. Like, oh, this business seems like it would be a good thing in this part of the world, and this business or NPC seems like it'd be good for this city. So I've kind of like tried to disperse that, which has helped me fill out my world on its own. That way, when I need an NPC, I can basically just grab one from the list and plug it in, and I can improv whatever's not there, but I have a solid baseline of who they are, like any quirks or anything like that that they may have, as well as like having like funny names and encounters already prepared, and someone else has done the work, and then I've just kind of added to that. So they went and talked to they were looking for fireworks, and I had a goblin already picked out for that, and I found a shop named Kaboom in Corpses, and he sells fireworks, but he also is an undertaker, someone who preps bodies, and he's chaotic, so he doesn't really care. Like, it doesn't bother him about dead people, and he's very intelligent. So they went up and talked to him, and he was like, oh, you want to buy the Motherlode one? It's 50 gold pieces. Don't even bother with the other ones. And then he explained like how they worked, and they're like, sold, I'll buy that. He's like, gets on his hands and knees. He's like, yes, because he's like basically become rich. And then Waldo buys 100 gold pieces worth of like smaller fireworks that are like bottle rockets, but when they explode, they do like images, like small images in different colors. So he buys 20 of those. So that was really fun for me to roleplay. They then asked him about like other things, like Ragnar, what's going on in the city, and gave them some insight about how things worked around here. He also was the like, would people buy these where you're from? And they're like, yeah, you would sell a ton of these. And he's like, I'm gonna go there. So he starts like packing up shop, and then they see a dead body like behind all of his fireworks. They're like, Kaboom, which was the name of the goblin. What is that? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm prepping the body for Fiona, who's coming to pick him up later. And they're like, what are you talking about? So that was really funny. And they started like laughing. It's like so bizarre to see this. So that was really fun for me. Then after they were done talking with Kaboom, which they wanted to meet up with him later and go to the blacksmith with him, since he's going to go there to get more gunpowder, quote unquote, since it's cheap and it's hard to find. So they went and they're like, we need to heal Tink. And they went to go see the fortune teller, which Kaboom told them about, because they asked Kaboom if anyone could heal Tink. He's like, yeah, the fortune teller, I think, can do it. They scared me out of my mind. I went inside and then I ran away in fear for my life. But it sounds like the type of person or thing that could help you. So they decided to go meet with the fortune teller. I had nothing prepped. The fortune teller is someone who tells fortunes. And again, I feel like that was something that I really needed to think about and prep and write down like a prophecy type of thing. I have watched some YouTube videos on like how to do prophecies, but that was like months ago. So I have things written down for my players, like themes that I've seen as they play. So I tried to describe the fortune teller as best as I could, and I kind of took my time and set the scene. I didn't have any voices prepared for the fortune teller, which is a being with 3 heads. So I just made something up on the spot, and I think it went wonderful. It was more of like every time they speak, there was like echoes and like different tones, like a whisper and then like a high tone and like a low tone and then like very intense and then not very intense. So it just gives off that eerie, haunting type feel. So they went and met with the fortune teller, and the fortune teller said, yes, I can heal you. 250 gold pieces, please. And they try to be like jokey with the fortune teller, and I just did not have it respond and just be even more intense, which kind of helped set the mood. And they were like laser focused, engaged, which was awesome. And I had a screenshot up of them to kind of give them the scene and the colors and kind of the atmosphere just with one image that I found that someone had made. Very awesome. So yeah, I just had one note up and I was just making things up as far as like, he asked them if they asked the group if they wanted to hear their fortunes, and then they hear each other's fortunes since they're all connected. And then they discuss like, oh, should I stay for that? And Waldo's like binge eating during this time because he's like scared out of his mind. So he's like compensating by eating nachos and stuff. And every time the fortune teller would like say something loud and intense, like the nachos would like fall onto his face. So that was just so perfect. Like, playing a dumb character is almost as difficult as playing a really intelligent character, and Waldo is just knocking it out of the park. It is so funny to see how he interacts with people, party, and other people in different situations. It's just been, like, so entertaining as the Dungeon Master. I don't know how the players are liking it, but I'm loving it. It is my favorite character, I think, out of all of them, just for his charm and spunk, I would say. So, they each heard their fortunes, and I will tell them in the order that I set them. So Tink's fortune. So their fortunes are, I will tell you in order that I said in the game. Tink, your fortune is that you will discover power. Enzo's was your passion is the key. It will turn the tide. Olvax's was your faults will be revealed and you will kill the creator of the list. Waldo's was your heart will save you. And as it said the word you, it looked at Wink. Wink's fortune was your riches will only exist if you lose yourself. Then the fortune teller raises all 4 of its arms and says, all of you will break the chain and kill my master. Then they ask about Theron, which, because I totally forgot, and then they give Theron's, which is, you've already found what you're looking for, but you don't want it. Not really. And then after that, they had some clarifying questions. I will reveal what all of the fortunes were. However, they might play out differently. Like, I have an idea of what their fortunes are, at their prophecy fortunes. However, like, the game might organically fulfill them in some certain way that we weren't expecting. So I'm really excited for that. But the fortunes are, Tink's you will find power was because Tink wants his character to find some sort of like magical device that can contain power, like electricity or something, magical energy that can allow people to teleport. Think of like the magician in Arcane that sets up like a trade teleport network across the world. Enzo's, your passion is the key. The dungeon of the collector, who is Orokef, the beholder. The layers are the books of Chicho and Crazy 8. And the only way to get through this labyrinth is to know the books inside and out, which Enzo does. Of the 2 he's read so far, he's going to find the other ones here in LaBelle, so he'll be able to make that connection and help really navigate them through. So that is the key. Waldo's, your heart will save you. I am planning on having Wink's character get taken by a succubus or incubus, and succubus and incubus can polymorph into a different creature, and I'm planning on having them take Wink to be sacrificed for Grotz in order to have him be summoned, or an aspect of him be summoned. And then the succubus will lead the group to them so they can all be killed as sacrifices as well. So that is my plan. I don't know if this will change at all. And I've already talked to Wink or Spencer about this, and he has agreed to do this. We haven't set up the semantics of exactly how this will work. But at some point there will be an encounter, a very, very, very difficult encounter where Wink gets taken and the players do not know about it. And then he will be playing a succubus for however many sessions after that it takes them to get to Oshi the Wild and Grot, the summoning of Grots. So I'm super pumped for that. That's why Waldo's heart will save him, because Waldo may have a suspicion that the rest do not. Speaking of Wink, Wink's was your riches. You can't have your riches without losing yourself. That is more of not necessarily true and literal fact, but the fact whoever he thinks he is, he can't be that person that he wants to be and have tons of riches at the same time because of how he's tempted by riches to be better than or things like that. So that was my thinking behind that. Again, that might change. I was making all of these up on the spot, so don't judge the rest of the campaign too harshly based on that decision. And then Olavax's was you'll kill the master of the list, the master or the creator of the list, the creator being Oshi the Wild. They will find a list later on of a bunch of magical creatures that was written to House Cleverly, which is part of this plot that they're going to run into. Cleverly is a noble house in Labelle, and it'll be an integral part of solving the mystery / case of killing Oshi the Wild, who's one of the lieutenants of the chain of Otokaf. So if Thadon's was you'll find you've already found what you're looking for, but you don't want it, that would be peace. Thadon has peace already if he wants it, but the way he wants to live doesn't allow him to have peace. So that is what Thadon's thing is. That might morph into something else, maybe riches or stature or wealth. I don't know how we can apply that, but that's what I was thinking when I made that. And then for the rest of them, I told them that they would break the chain, and if they would kill one of the leaders of the chain of Otokaf and help be an integral part in its demise. And I felt like the players were really reassured, we know that we can do this. The fortune teller has told us this. And then I posed this after the game. I'm so your characters believe in fate, because just because a fortune teller says it doesn't mean it's actually true. But some people believe in fate and some people don't. So it was kind of a good awakening moment for the players. Does my player believe in this? And things like that. After the fortunes were said, they had a lot of other questions, which I'll answer here as well and tell you my thinking behind them. They asked where they could find what they've come to Labelle, and the fortune teller pointed straight down, because directly beneath the fortune teller's place is where they're trying to summon Grots. The fortune teller knows this, obviously. He works closely with Oshi the Wild. Oshi the Wild comes to the fortune teller often to try to get insights as to who's trying to infiltrate her, where she can get information. She also helps look for magic items in the city, so the fortune teller helps point out who might have these magical items so she can bring them to Otokaf, who loves collecting magical items. The players asked about the origin of magic, and the fortune teller told them to seek Nile or Claude, which are two NPCs that I made up, and I didn't know if I would ever use them. They were just people that I created and then I plugged in for this scenario. These are learned wizards who know how magic works, on a fundamental level. So they're asking about the origin of magic. There aren't any secrets to it. They're just things that people haven't truly put together. This person is pretty close and is able to share what they know. That's all that I was going for with that answer. Enzo then asks a question about if his moon, the girl that he likes, will stay with him, and he responded the moon never moves, but sometimes it's not visible, meaning yes, she will always be there, but she might not able to be seen by you, but her heart will always be with him, which was kind of the point of that. So then Enzo asked if it was a mistake to leave the Sword of Stars, and it says yes, it was a mistake, many times. The point was the fortune teller has a way to see who Enzo is supposed to be, and the Sword of Stars is important to that, so it knows that it was a mistake on that front, not that it's going to be stolen. There will be an attempt in the background that's happening on that front that they'll find out eventually, but it will be safely guarded the entire time. So then Wink asks I've been having dreams of towers, what do I do? And he's how do I get to the tower? And it's which tower? All roads lead to the same place, and it yelled the word place, and then Waldo's nachos went all over him again, so that was hilarious. And then they left. So that's how the session ended, was them leaving with kind of a new perspective on things. Overall, everyone loved the session. They're They had so much fun doing the carnival games, like a lighter tone in the beginning and then like a more serious, intense tone at the end. They seem to say that it was one of their more favorite sessions. They loved all the NPCs. I think the reason why it went so well was because I had an outline of all the different places that they can go. So no, I didn't have every single thing prepped for like what Kaboom would say or what the carnival games would be exactly or how like the dynamic of everything would flow. But I'm able to improv better when I have images and dialogue and things written down. Like I know how these things think at a glance and quickly. So I think I just need to keep doing what I'm doing as far as like how I'm prepping things. I know sometimes my faults or descriptions are lacking. I think that's just going to come with time and me remembering to take the time to do it. Even though sometimes it makes things go a little bit slower, it gives more context to the players and it saves time in the long run because there's less questions to be asked because they understand things properly. So yay for being in LaBelle. I'm super excited for next session. It looks like they're going to go visit more stores, then finally go talk to the Lady of Masks, who is the lady that Joel has sent them to, and I am really excited for them to meet Lady of Masks. So stay tuned for the next campaign diary and see what the adventurers do. Thank you for staying the whole time if you're watching this, and see you in the next one. Later.